Hello friends, welcome to Edwiki Learning channel. Please do subscribe to get more updates on the DevOps concepts. This video is part of the full course AWS DevOps Practitioner training. Please do check the description below to get the link for the complete full course. Without further delay, let's get into the video. Thank you. Right, as part of that, we are learning some of the basics in the sense what are the different ways we can give the data as an input to the program, and how do we do the data parsing. When I say a data parsing, in the sense the given input data may be in a different type, right? Could be a int, a string, or list, dictionary, whatnot. So sometimes the Python code may expect the input to be in a different format. That is where the data parsing is needed, and we are discussing here how do we parse the given data. As part of that, we have seen significant exercises on string type of the data, right? When you get a string data to a variable, how do we apply the string related built-in functions and the methods in order to manipulate or in order to process your string data and go with this, correct? So today I'll talk about uh, list and dictionary data types as well, correct? I think we already covered the integer, floating, and string. We don't have much built-in methods and functions for the integer and the floating numbers, because those are just numbers, so you can just take it and use it for mathematical calculation, right? When the input data is in a string, yes, there are some significant exercises can be done on string, because the string is the immutable data type which has the positive and the negative indexing, and we can do a lot of things on string data in order to break it down and manage it as per your need, right? So let me go over with the list data type today. So before I go with the list data type, right, I wanted to do little exercise on string. One scenario that I wanted to cover. Let me invoke my Python interpreter. Well, so I'll be keep on asking you some of the questions, guys, and you can answer me over the chat window. That way, we are trying to do some lot of exercises. Okay. So let's say I'm taking a variable just to make it more simple, right? Today, let me take some simple variable. Yesterday, I have used instance name, instance ID, kind of. Those are the variables. Just to understand that we are actually trying to get some of the instance IDs as an input, right? So just to understand some of the basics now, let me take some sample variables. It could be any variable name, right? The name is just for our understanding purpose. Okay. So I'm just taking a variable called a, and I'll keep some text to that variable. Okay. So web server, sorry, right? So web server is the string data that I have been given to my a variable. Now what I do is I'll just do b equal to a. Now tell me, guys, what is the value that is holding in the b variable? So if I go for print, I wanted to print the b variable, right? And if you see that the value is web server, how do we understand this? In the b equal to a, the right side, whatever you see, that is the expression, right? That expression will be get processed. The result will be assigning as a value to the left side variable. In this case, I just said b equal to a. So a is a variable. The corresponding data is actually assigning to the left side b variable. So simple, right? Now let me do something like this. I'm just doing b equal to, now let's say, app server. Now if I go for print, now what will be the value of b? So sometime back when I was printing b, right, the answer was web server. Now I'm printing a B, so the answer will be app server. Now let me print A. What could be the answer for A, guys? Right? So the value is, the A value is still web server. So what is happening, right? Initially, I got some string data input to one variable, and that is actually assigning to another variable. Later part, I actually overwritten the B variable, right? So only the B variable value got changed because that is got overwritten. The A is still remains the same because I did not overwrite the A variable value, right? In anywhere. If you see here, the left side A is not there, right? That means I did not overwrite the A variable. So far, so good on this exercise. Good. Now, let me jump on to the list data type. Sometimes when we are giving the input to the Python, the input can be given as multiple values in one single variable, right? So let's say I have two EC instances that I wanted to, stop, right? I wanted to give two EC instances names probably, correct? So let's say I'm just taking the variable again, a equal to, for example, web server is one, b equal to, let's say, app server, right? So let's say one instance name I'm taking into one variable, the another instance name I'm taking it into another variable. I can do that. There is no issue with this. But the problem is we are increasing the number of variables. You see, I'm just taking two variables. What is the case if I have total 50 EC2 servers that I wanted to manage, right? I don't want to go with 50 different variables holding the 50 EC2 server names. Got me? So to minimize the number of variables that I'm using in my program, we can go with the list concept. The list is the data type which is holding the multiple values in one single variable. Now, rather maintaining the two variables like this, I can say that a equal to, whenever I am giving the input as a list of multiple elements, then the data to be in a brackets. Inside the brackets, now you start giving the values. Let's say the web server, that is the first element, and give the comma over there, and now give the second element, guys. This is how we need to give, and hit enter. You see, so rather me using the two variables, so it with one variable I'm able to get or give the input that I wanted to give. So this is called as a list data type. Okay, so if you wanted to know what is the what is the data type that is stored in the a variable, as usual we know that I can print a type function, right? So let's say I wanted to know the type of a, and I can see that the type is list. So whenever you are using the list data type to include the multiple elements in one single variable, inside the list, the elements, whenever I am using the terminology called element, is mean that a value, guys. So if I say this particular a variable is holding of two elements, that means there are two values separated by a dot, sorry, comma. These are in a single list, correct? So inside the list, the elements or the values can be a string. Sometimes the values can be a integer. The values can be a floating also. That means a list can contain multiple elements, right? And a list can contain a one element can be a string, one element can be an integer, one can be a floating. It's up to you what kind of the data that you wanted to keep inside a list. The list will accept any type of the data in it. Now tell me, guys, what is the type of the a variable here? Which type of the data that the a variable is holding of? It is still a list. A list contains the strings and the float or the integer. I don't care about what kind of the data inside the list. When I'm talking about A is the list variable. A list variable, right, is having the positional numbers for the elements. That means all the elements that you see inside the list will be identified using the index numbers. The way how we have the indexing for strings, even for lists also having the indexing. It has a positive and the negative indexing, right? When I say positive indexing, the first element is 0, the second element is 1. Basically, it starts with 0, right? 0, 1, 2, 3. That's how the indexing will be given. So whenever you wanted to access a specific element, we can call that by its position number. Let's say I wanted to know what is the value of A. Whenever you give the A variable, your output is the total list, right? So let's say I wanted to know what is the value of the 0th position in my list. Now you see that my answer is web server. Same thing how we did it for strings, right? The strings also having the position numbers, and we can extract that specific element or specific position by giving that in your no in your variable. So the same thing is applicable here as well, right? So let's say I wanted to get one. You see that I'm getting a app server, right? Like this. So whenever you are trying to give, let's say, print a of, I wanted to get the value of value at the position number 5, right? You are getting the error now. What it says, the list index is out of range. That means the list has 0, 1, 2, 3 only, right? The fifth position is not at there in your list, correct? So it is throwing the error that there is no value at a position number 5. You are going out of the range. So whenever you wanted to process or do the data parsing of a list variable, we need to identify what is the length of a list variable. When I say length, in the sense we should know how many elements are there in the list variable. Then we can see how to give the specific position number there in order to extract the specific value from the list, right? So that means now I can take the help of the length function. We already know, right? What is len? Len is basically calculating the length of your variable in terms of the number of elements that it is holding. Right? Now you see when I'm calling the len function on the a variable, it is saying 4. That means your list variable is currently containing 4 elements. You see this? It is having 4 elements, and the len is showing that there are 4 elements in it. That way you will know that how many are there in the list variable, and you can know how to pass the position numbers to get the specific value by looking into the range, right? Now I wanted to do this case, sorry, print. Maybe I'll be printing the a variable very often so that we will know what is the latest data of my variable, because my screen is going right. So the values will be at the top side. Those are not visible, right? That's the reason I'll be keep on printing this so that we will know what is the current value. Then it's easy for us to understand the output. Let's say now I'm trying to print a variable, right? In the a variable, I wanted to print the value at a position number 0, right? But I don't want the value at all. I don't want the value, but I wanted to know what is the type of the value. You see the way how I'm running the commands, guys, or the syntaxes. What is that I'm doing here? I wanted to know what is the type of the value, but I'm not interested on looking at the type of the value at a variable itself. Rather, I wanted to know what is the value type in the position number 0. Got me? And what will be the expected output here? The expected output is a string, right? So you see the position number 0 is having the web server, right? A of 0 is referring a web server, and what is the type of the data in the position number 0? That is a string, right? And I'm getting this. So whenever you get a list variable, and if you wanted to process the specific element of the list, you extract it using that position number, then you do whatever you wanted to. Now the A of 0 is the string, right? Now you apply your string related built-in functions and all in order to process your string data. So from list, first I'm pointing to the specific element, then you take that element and do your data processing, parsing whatever or however you wanted to. For example, now tell me guys, b equal to a of 0. Now what will be the value of b? Obviously, right? So this is how the data parsing will happen, guys, because if you are giving some 50 EC2 instances information in a single list to your Python program, Python can't process all the 50 at one go using this list, right? Python expects that, hey, can you give me one by one? Maybe we need to call out the specific element at a time. That's how we need to extract the specific element like this. Now you got the value like this. So what is the type of this variable? So if I say here, right, you see the type of A of 0, this is a string. Now if you want to process this particular web server string, then you apply your string related functions. For example, I'll do like this: print, okay, print A of 0, maybe I'll do like this: print B of 0. What will be the value, guys? Are we good with this? A of 0 in the sense I need a position number 0 in the A variable. A is the list, the position number 0 is the web server that I have got collected and assigned to another variable. In that variable, now B is the string data type, correct? B is the string data type, correct? If B is the string data type, in this B string data, I need a position number 0, which is the W in this case. So in a Python interpreter, right, you always do one execution, one expression only, right? So let's say the beauty of Python is to minimize the total number of lines. Here, if you see, in order to get into the position number of W in the web server, I'm first locating the 0th element in the list. I'm collecting that into a variable. Then I'm trying to see the position number 0 in the string. There are a couple of steps that I followed, right? We can include everything in one single liner as well. The way how it works, right? I want to print a variable. Good. In that a variable, I wanted to print the value at a position number 0. Good. What is the type of the value at a position number 0, guys? A string, right? If then in the A of 0, I'm interested on the position number 0 again. Now you see that I'm getting the same W. That means rather me getting that value, assigning to a variable, and again passing the one more position number in that B variable, all these three lines are now replaced with one single statement as well. The problem is whenever you are writing in one single liner like this, It's very hard to understand it, correct? Because you'll be in confusion what it is. Okay, a of 0 of 0, what does it mean? It's very difficult to understand this. Okay, a is a list variable. In that 0 is the first element, in that 0 is the second element, sorry, 0 is the first element in that first value, right? That is where the w will come. But you can't write this program at one go. I mean to say, the moment when I ask you, you can't write this. Maybe during the development time, it's better to do these exercises, see how the things will work out. Once you understand, right, the overall logic, then you try to combine these all this logic it into one single frame, then it is easy to do the development. Getting me what I'm trying to? That means, right, so the moment when you start writing the Python program, you can't make it into one liner. It's very difficult to understand it. At least now this is very easy, but once we get the complex environment, right, so we can't write a single line program at one go, right, at first attempt. So always you break it down into multiple pieces like this. Once you get a clarity how it is working, then you try to convert it into one single liner of program, and that is the final program for you to use it in your actual environment. Good. Now let me do this, guys. Let me see what is the value of a. Good. Now let me do this. A is the list variable. In order to do the data parsing in the list variable, there are some built-in functions are there, right? A dot append. Append is the function which will be adding one more element to the existing list. For example, now I'm just adding the number 7. Hit enter. Now if you see what is the value of a, you see that the 7 has got appended to the existing list. That is how, let's say initially you got some input in the list format. Later on you would like to add one more data to this list. Let's say today there are 50 servers in your AWS environment. Tomorrow there are few more servers are added. You are expecting the Python to take care of them as well, right? We can take those additional values, additional instance names or IDs, then append to the existing list. That's how it will be a real-time use case, right? So specify the variable dot and specify the function, the built-in method. So append is the built-in method, and inside that you specify the value, then that will be get appended to the existing list. That's where now if I try to print a, and I can see the value along with the 7 as well. Like that, there are some built-in methods are there in order to manipulate or in order to do data parsing of your list data, right? So if you do a dot clear, clear is the built-in method and which will be clearing your all the values. Now if you try to see the content of a variable, the list is empty because the clear method will just go and remove all the elements inside the list. Let me take these values again to do some more exercises. Now my value is back to my a variable, right? Now let me do one more. A dot insert, right? So I'm trying to insert the value called 10. Hit enter. Yeah, that's okay. So let me do 0.10. Now let me print a. So the insert is the built-in method which will be inserting a value. The appending is always appending the value at a last of your list. Okay. Insert, we can tell the value has to be inserted it into which position as well. Let's say when I say insert a comma 10, sorry 0 comma 10, that means hey, I wanted to insert a value 10 where it has to be inserted before the 0th position. That is the reason you can see that before the 0th position your value got inserted. That is how the insert function works. Sometimes if you wanted to insert a value in a specific location in a specific position number, we can tell the position number and the value to be inserted, that will be taken care of. Now you can see the updated list with the 10 is inserted before the 0th position. A dot, so reverse is the function which will be actually reversing your values as well. You see now in the previously the 10 was the first element. After the reverse, you see that the 10 is become the last element in the list. So that's how the values can be reversed as well, right? So we can even use the sort function in order to sort the values. So the thing is sorting is like ascending or the descending, right? So when you are trying to do the sorting, right, it is complaining now because currently your list is containing the strings and the integers, both combination, right? So it's not possible to do the sorting. That's what it is complaining. If you are having only the integer, yes, definitely it will do the sorting and it will place your elements in the ascending or the descending, whatever you have been asked for, right? That's what is the sorting. So by default, the sorting will go in an ascending order. The smallest element at the first position, the biggest element will be at a last position, right? That's how it will do the sorting as well. Okay. Now let me do a few more exercises. Now tell me guys, what is the value of A? So POP is the pop in the sense it is going to collect or take out the last element by default. You see, currently your A variable is right. The A variable is the 10 is the last element, right? That last element is got collected here using the pop statement. Now what will be the value of A? If you see the value of A, that 10 is not showing there because I have actually removed it from the list by using the pop function. By default, the pop function will be removing the element, whichever the element is there at the end or at the last. And that is not showing now because I just have got it removed from there. Now, let me do some exercises, guys. So I wanted to do like this. Now tell me guys, what will be the answer for A? So what I did, right, I just have taken a string data to a variable called A. Then on that string variable, correct? On that string variable, I am using the replace function. We already did the replace function yesterday as well, right? I'm telling that the app has to be replaced with the web. Okay. Now I can see that it is actually replaced. Now I'm trying to see what is the value of a variable called A. So what will be your answer then? Let me try to hit enter. Your answer is app server here. Okay, your answer is app server here. What is that app server? This is the actual original value that was assigned to a variable, right? That means whenever you have taken a string data and after that you have done some manipulations, right? You see on that string variable, I actually did some kind of the exercises. I already done some changes to that, right? So but the changes that you have done for your a variable are not taken effect into your actual variable. You see, my a variable is not affected. My a variable is still holding of the original value only. Whatever the changes that you have done as a replacement method are not taken into effective. It is just converting it into a web server by replacing the app terminology, and it has given you the output for you. It's your responsibility to collect this output and take it into a different variable or process it wherever you want it to, but it is not affecting your original string itself. But let me see the list variable for now. Okay, I'll just take a list. Maybe one is the web server, comma, one is the app server. I'm just taking these two it into my list. Now what I do is a dot append, right? I'm just appending some value called 6. Now tell me guys, what will be the value of a? I'm doing the same thing, right? Whatever I have done for my string, my string data type, the same thing I'm doing for list also, correct? In the string, I just got one string data it into a variable, then I'm doing some functions against it, then I'm trying to print my original value, right? Even in the list as well, I got some list of variables and I'm just doing some functions on that to manipulate the data. Then I'm trying to list my a variable. Now you see that the a variable value is along with the modification that you have done. That's how the difference between the string and the list. Why like that? Why the strings and lists are not acting in the same fashion? Because in the string we see that it is not affecting the original value. In the list we see that it is actually affecting the original value, right? So the strings are immutable data types, list are mutable data types. That's the difference here. So if you wanted to know what exactly mean by the mutable and immutable data types, okay, let me take this scenario. Okay, so whenever you take the value as a web server like this, which is the string, right? So what the Python will do, right? The Python will be storing this value it into a specific memory assignment. I don't know, this font is good. Is this visible, guys? I don't want the shaded, so I just wanted to come here. Okay, if that is visible, then let me do this, right? So whenever you do a equal to and give some string value over there in the backend, the Python is going to store your value in the memory. Let's say this is the a variable and the value is web server. This is how it is going to store the value in a specific memory location somewhere. Because whenever you are referencing the a variable, right, it has to render, it has to replace that variable with the value. So how a Python know that what is the value? Somewhere it is storing the value in a memory locations and it is fetching the value whenever you are referencing that variable, right? So far so good. Whenever you do any changes to this particular a variable, which is the string variable, maybe you are doing something called a dot replace, right? Whenever you do any kind of operations on the existing variable, the Python is not going to change it in the actual variable memory location. Rather, it is trying to create a one more memory location, and whatever the changes that you are doing, the changes will actually be done in the a different memory location for you altogether. That is the reason whenever you are referencing the a variable, you are still getting the original value because that is not affected at all because of the operations that you have done. That is the reason when you do a dot replace, you are getting the resulted output, but that is not affecting the original value because that is calculated and stored or processed in a different memory location altogether. Are we good with this? Whenever you are actually using the list variable and you are keeping some list of values in it, right? The way how Python is trying to process this data is the Python is going to take a memory location. Let's say this is the A, and inside that it is maintaining the values in a list format, right? So whenever you are doing any operations on this, let's say A dot append, you are doing something, right? Whenever you are doing some changes to the list data type, rather it is maintaining this result it into a different memory location. It is actually doing that result, or it is updating the same memory location only. So the original value is in one location. Whenever you do some changes to that, it is actually referencing to the same memory location. Hence the reason any changes that you do on that variable, it is actually impacting the original value itself. So it will be appending in the same location. A will be pointing to the same location. That's the difference between the mutable and the immutable data types, or at least between the string and the list data types. Being said that, now if I come back to here and let me bring up one more scenario, guys. Okay, so A equal to web server, right? B equal to A. Now tell me, guys, what is the value of B? Okay, so the value of B is web server. Okay, so now what I do is B dot replace of web with the app. Now what is the value of B? What is the value of A? No problem, you can take some time and look through here. So actually I got one string data to a variable. The A variable data is assigned to a B variable. Then I started off doing some changes to my B variable. Definitely string is the immutable data type, right? That means it's not possible to change the value at a specific positional number, or by indexing we can't change the value. That is what is the immutable, right? So here the A value or the B value, nothing is affected. Both are showing the original value only, right? So that's how it is. Let me do the same thing for my list variable just to see the difference. A equal to, let's say, 567, B equal to A. Okay, now let me print A, let me print B. Are we good so far? Right, whatever the value that I got it in the A variable, I just assigned to my B variable, and I'm just printing both values. As of now both are same. Good. What I do is I'm going to append some value to my B variable. Now I wanted to ask you, what is the A value? If you see that the A value is appended by 10, you may be asking me a question now, right? We actually appended the 10 to the B variable. How come the A variable is affected? Whenever you do B equal to A, right? Since the list is the mutable data type, since the lists are maintaining the same memory location always, whenever you do whenever you do B equal to A, what Python will do, right? Rather allocating a different memory location for the B variable, the B variable will be get referencing to the same memory location. That is how it will be doing in the backend. That way, the A variable is referencing to the same memory location. Even the B variable also referencing it to the same memory location only. It is not maintaining a separate location. That is the reason, though you are changing the B variable, still it is affecting for your A variable as well. Both are referencing to the same location. Getting me? The reason why I'm going in little deeper here to make you guys are understanding. But if you do the same thing for your strings, let's say A equal to web server, then you do B equal to A. What will happen, right? The Python is going to create one more new memory location for your B variable. The B variable will be get stored here, and the A variable will be get stored in another location. That is how the strings are managed, and this is how the lists are managed. That's the reason when you update the B variable, that is actually impacting your A variable as well, because both are referencing to the same location. Are we good with this? The reason why we got the different value for A, though I'm not touching my variable here. The A variable is not modified directly, but still the A is modified here. The reason, though you modify the B, still your A got modified because list are mutable data types, and it can go and basically it is pointing to the same memory location behind the screen. So whatever the basics that you are grabbing, right, tomorrow when we are applying this it into the real time to make one automation, one troubleshooting, sorry, one administrative activity. So this thought process will help us to beautify your code, guys. Good. So why the list is the mutable? Mutable in the sense we can change it, right? So let's say here I wanted to do A of 0, okay, and let me do equal to, let's say, 11. Now you see print of A, sorry, print of A. There's a typo, guys. Print of A. So you see here the A of 0 is mean that the position number 0 in your list variable, right? I am able to modify the specific element in the list, correct? What does it mean by A of 0 equal to 11? A of 0 in the sense the first element in the list. The first element I'm actually overwriting with the different value. So that means what? In the list variable, I'm able to modify the specific element by its position number. I'm able to modify the value by its index number, right? Hence, it is called as a mutable data type. Whereas this is not possible in the string. In the strings, you are able to get the value at a position number, but you can't override that position number by your different value, right? Hence, the strings are the immutable because you can't change by its position number. The list are the mutable. We can change the value at a position number. That's how it works. Now let me do some changes here. Let's say A equal to 567. What happened? A equal to 5 comma 6 comma 7. I'm just doing some exercises, guys. Okay, let's say I'm taking a one more variable called b, and b is equal to 6 comma 7 comma 5. Now tell me, guys, a equal to b, is it true or false? Now I'm trying to do the equalization, right? I'm trying to see if the a variable and the b variable are equal. We have some logical operators that we can apply, like a mathematical calculations. Plus is for addition, minus is for subtraction, right? Like that. Equal to is to do the comparison between the two values if both are equal or not. If both are equal, you will get true. If not, you will get a false. That's how the Python is doing the comparison. So you are getting the output as a false. What it is saying, 567 is the values at my a variable, and even the b variable also having the 567 only, right? More or less the data is same. but the data is not in the right sequencing. The list is the ordered data type. When I say ordered data type, it is very much interested to see the value at a position by position. When you do the comparison, right, it check for what is the value at 0th position at A, what is the value at 0th position at B. It will do the comparison. Okay, both are not matching, look like both are not same. That's how it will be identifying. Hence the reason the list is saying it as a ordered data type. The order is very much important. It doesn't matter about the data is same or not. It has to be in the same order, then only both will be equal. That's called as a ordered data type. Good. So I think that is how it is. Let's say now let me give you one more exercise. I'm taking the A variable with some string data. I'm giving the string like this, web server. Let's say for some reason I have two EC2 instances that I wanted to manage, and you have got the input as a string like this. Possible, guys? Can I give the data like this? Now, what is the type of the A variable? The A variable is the string data. And when you look at the string data, your string is actually having this not a the string data is not in the straightforward way to process it, correct? When you give this string data to your Python saying that, hey, can you take this data and go and stop the server? Your Python can't do that. Why? The given input string is not in the right format because it has multiple EC2 instance names are given in a one single string by using the comma as a separator, right? So it can't process it at the same. Now we need to do some data parsing. We need to do some data transformation, right? Change this input given string data it into a different format in order to make it more easier for processing, right? So what I can do, right? I can do like this: a dot split. Okay, I got the look like the value is comma separated by two different server names, right? Maybe I wanted to split this data by taking comma as a separator. Since A is the immutable, the actions that you do on the A variable will not be effective in the A variable itself. So always you take that value as a different variable. Now you see the value of B, guys. What has happened? So whenever you are applying the split function on a string by specifying, right, what is the delimiter that it has to use to do the split, and in this case take the comma as a separator and make them it into a list format. You see, it will actually go into your string data. Wherever it sees the comma, that is taken as a separator. Now you see web server is taken into one element, the app server is taken into another element. Now it is converted into a list format. Now how easy it is, guys, in order to get the values from the list. Easy, right? Let's say now if I wanted to process the web server, I can just say that b of 0, correct? Now if I say b of 0, I'll get my web server. If I say b of 1, I'll get my app server. Now I can ask my Python, hey, could you please stop the server wherever, whatever you get it in b of 0, whatever you get it in b of 1. Like that, I can extract the string data it into a list format and take the data position by position, and you go to the next level and ask your Python to do some other next level of steps. Getting me? What does it mean by the data parsing or data transformation, right? So the overall what I'm trying to write, so the input given data can be one in one format, whereas if that format is not in a suitable way, you always need to do some exercises on the input data and make it converted it into the suitable format and process it in your next level of programs. That's what is the Python skill. If you know how to take the input data, how to parse the data, and how to convert it into the right format, you are done. Your Python I mean to say your most of the Python skill is done. Are we good with this now? So I think we did some exercises on the list, right? How to make use of the data which is in the list format. Now let's see the data in the dictionary format. The problem with the list is, it's not really the problem. It's all about making some more improvements, right? Whenever I'm keeping some data in the list format, you only see the actual value, but we can't figure it out exactly what the value is all about. Got me what I'm trying to? Let's say I can see the value as web server, what it is. Is this the tag name? Is this the instance name? You got me? Or is this the VPC name? Is this the security group name? Correct. I meant to say, whenever you get some values in the list format, you don't know exactly the given data is related to which context. Is the servers or is the VPC or the network, whatever. So if you go with the dictionary format, it's very easy to describe that the value is belonging into what. Let me do that. If you wanted to use the dictionary format in order to keep your data, let's say a equal to, the dictionary always will be having the data within the curly brackets. So here we can use the key and the value kind of the format. So here I can say that instance, maybe I'll say web server. So this is one value, guys. Okay. Key is the instance colon, the value is the web server, key colon value. And then you give the comma, then you go with the second server, right? Let's say the maybe this is the name. I'm just trying to give minimal. Maybe in the second one, I'll say the ID. Getting me? And hit enter. You see, whenever you are following the dictionary method, right, it's very easy to understand what the value is all about. You see, okay, the first value is actually the name. The second value is actually the ID, like that. If you want, yes, you can do. For example, VPC ID is the key and specify the value, something like this, right? So it's very easy to understand that the value is describing what exactly, rather assuming or maybe it will improve the readability, all these things, guys. So the dictionary also containing the multiple elements separated by dot comma. The only difference is it is containing the key. The dictionary also can contain the value in the string, or the value can be a integer as well. For example, I'll say like this: count is the key and the value can be a integer. You see, so two the two elements are having the string type, the third element is having the integer type possible. Now if you do print a, I wanted to print the value of a variable, you see that the value is in the dictionary format. The dictionaries are actually a mutable data types, like integers, sorry, like list. Even the dictionaries are also called out by its value. I mean to say, I can extract the specific element that you wanted to, but the dictionary is not following the indexing. Like in list, you don't need to use the indexing now to extract the data. Why? Every value has its own key, right? Let's say if you wanted to get this web server value, you refer this as, I wanted to know the value of a variable. In that variable, previously I was giving the index number, right? now rather giving the index number, I will specify the key name. Hey, I want to know what is the value of the key called name. So it will go and get the value of this particular name key, and you see your values came here. I wanted to know what is the value of the key called ID. It will just go and give you the value of that specific key. That is how you can get the value by its key name in the dictionary. It is not following the position numbers. So being said that, now let's say I'm just taking this a variable. Now I'm taking another variable here. Now, sorry. Yeah. So these are the two statements, right? Now tell me guys, A equal to B, is it true or false? These are the two recent assignments, right? So if you see these two assignment, right, the answer says true. Why? It is not actually following the position number based comparison. Rather, it is following the key based comparison in the sense it will check for, okay, in the A variable, the key name is name. So in the B variable, do I have the same key? If yes, the values are matching or not, right? That's how it is. That's how it is checking the comparison. So the order is doesn't matter now, right? The values can be in any order, doesn't matter, as long as the key and the values are matching. This is good. So the dictionaries are unordered data types. The order is not a matter, right? It can be in any order, so it can get the values by its key names, not by the position numbers. So the dictionaries are mutable and unordered data types. Why I'm calling it as a mutable? The reason is you do the same thing. Let's say A of name, right? Let's say app server. Now if you print A, you see, so it is possible to change the value, right, at a specific element, right? So the name element is having web server. You see, now I just changed this to a app server. How I did it? So the A of this particular key, I wanted to change to this one, right? Yes, it is changing that value. As I'm able to change the value of a specific element inside the dictionary, and it is a immutable, sorry, it is a mutable data type, right? So let's say whenever you do like this, for example, security group ID, right? And just say that DPTSC. Now you see, so whenever you say that, hey, I wanted to give this particular value to this particular key, if this key already exists, it will go and override the value to that. If this key is not exist, it will just append it. So you see this, because this key is not already there, it is understanding that it has to be added as a new element, and you see that it is appended. Like a list, we don't need to use append of. That append function is not needed. We can just say that, hey, I want this value to be in this particular key. It will just go and append it for you. That's how it works. So overall, right, whenever you get the data to your Python, either a integer, string, list, or dictionary, you should know how to apply some data parsing techniques and process the data as per your need or requirement, guys. That's the story here. Let me see what is the length of my dictionary. You see, the length of dictionary is 3 because it is actually containing 3 elements at this time. And if you wanted to know the type type is dictionary. Now the final exercise on the dictionary, right? A equal to, let me take this value, B equal to A. Now B of, right? So let's say count equal to, let's say 5. Now tell me guys, what will be the value of A? I got the value to my A variable, which is the dictionary, and the A value I given to B, I modified. I modified my B variable. Now I'm trying to print my A. So technically I did not touch my A variable, right, in my exercise. So if you see A, the count is actually appended here. Why it is appended? Same concept. The list is the mutable, right? I talked about the memory assignments, all these things. The same way the dictionary also will be working. The dictionaries are mutable, so it is actually not allocating a different memory location. It will try to use the same. That's the reason A also affected over there. Good. So A equal to, and let me do like this now. Print, sorry, print A, print type of A. Okay. So I'm done with my dictionary, right? Now I'm showing you one more data type. Whenever you are actually giving your value to a variable, you can give the value as a bytes data type as well. You see here B and the quote mark started. Then this particular data type is called as a bytes. You see here, when I see the type of the data, now it is telling that, hey, the A variable is holding the data in the form of a bytes. So that's how it works. This is another data type, guys. Now you should know how to parse this data and how to convert the data and all these things, right? So when I say bytes, you all know, right, the bits and bytes where the computers will be working behind the screen. So the data will be treated as a bytes format, and it will be, doing something behind the screens. So we can convert these things as well, but I just wanted to call out this. Now the another data type is called as a list data type. Sorry, we already done with list, right? So the another data type is the set, set. So the set data type will have the data in the curly brackets, but the data will not have any uh, keys. Like in dictionary, the dictionary also having the data inside the curly brackets, but it has a key value, right? You see the set, it is having the brackets, but the value is directly there. Like a list only. The list has the square brackets, right? And the set has the curly brackets. What makes difference now? Maybe I'll do like this. Maybe 7, 6, 5. Now tell me guys, what will be the value of A? Nothing. I have not done any uh, operations on the A variable, right? I just given some data. Now I'm trying to print the data. Now you see uh, the difference. Set is the data type. Exclusively you use it whenever you don't want the values to be duplicated. By default, the set is trying to see your data. If the data elements are repeating, it considers that as one single data, and you see that your actual value is 567 only. because 7 is repeated, 6 is repeated, 5 is repeated. It will just remove those duplicates by default for you. So whenever you wanted to ensure that you are not actually getting the data duplicated, you just make that into a set format. As an example, someone has given you some list of EC2 servers that you wanted to stop, right? You got some 50 EC2 instance details. By mistake, they have given you the instance IDs repeatedly, right? They given same instance ID given twice or thrice in the list. I mean to say in your 50 count, right? If you use it as a list format, and you end up having issues because the same ID is repeated again. When you try to stop it, the server might have been already stopped, correct? So to ensure that the duplicates are not there, if you take that data it into a set format, it automatically remove the duplicates so that you will not get a issue where you are processing it multiple times, right? That's where the use cases will be there. Apart from that, the remaining characteristics are pretty much same even for set as well. The another one is the tuple. So the tuple will have the rounded brackets and you see the values like this. So if you say I wanted to know the type of A, you see that the type is a tuple. So the tuple is again a immutable data type, right? Where you can't change the value at a specific position number. Okay. So let me come back to set again. Maybe I need to talk about one other statement. So this is the set, right? So the set does not have the order. I mean to say the set does not have any position numbers, right? So that means you can't get the data at a specific element, like a 0th position I wanted to know some data, a first position I wanted to know some data. No, the data which is in the set, you can't extract it by its position number. So that means the set is not having any positive or indexing numbers. And obviously, right, if you don't have the indexing, you can't change the value, correct? If you don't have the indexing, you can't change the value, right? But the set is little bit of confusing, okay, in the sense the set variable is mutable, but the elements inside the set are immutable. Let me repeat that again. The set itself is the mutable, but elements inside the set are immutable. That means it is possible to change the whole set value, but you can't change the value of a specific element. For example, a dot, let's see, add, let's say I'm just adding 10, print a. You see guys, I actually added 10 to my variable called a, right? And you see it is actually affected. Why I'm able to add 10 to the existing set? Because the set is the mutable, but can I change the value at a 0th position, guys? Let's say currently this is the latest value, right? Let's say I wanted to change the 10 number to 15. That not possible because the set is not maintaining the position numbers. So my statement is set is the mutable because I'm able to add a data or remove the data, but a specific position if I wanted to change, you can't change it because it is not following the indexing. So the elements are immutable, but as a set it is immutable. That's how a small change compared to any other data types, right? Now coming back to the tuple, so this is how the data will be represented in the tuple format. The tuples are again a immutable data types, right? And we can't change the specific elements or even the tuple itself, right? And that's how it works. Most likely we will be working with the list and dictionaries only and the strings. It's very rare where we get into the tuple bytes, all other things, right? But having some idea what it is good enough because we don't know in which format you will be getting the input from other sources. You need to pass the data. right? So I think I'll stop with this basics, because when we get into the real time in start writing the program, we'll definitely get all these requirements, right? Then I'll talk about the other exercises as part of developing the program. Whatever you have done in your Python interpreter will be temporary. Once you exit the interpreter, all the variables, memory assignments, values, everything will be gone, right? So usually you use the interpreter to see how the Python works, how you can pass the data. Once you know exactly how can you uh, render the data or parse the data, then you transform that logic it into your Python code. Let's say now I wanted to write my Python code, right? So here you can do like this. Let's say a equal to, I wanted to have the 5 comma 6 comma 7, right? I wanted to print a of 0th position. I'm just doing some changes, okay? Let's say b equal to a of maybe the first element in my list. I'm trying to take it into a different variable. So do something like this. Once you write a Python code in a file, whatever you are expecting, usually it will be a line by line code, right? Each line has its own specific expression, right? Then you need to execute this file. If you are keeping the code in a file format and if you wanted to execute that, the thing is run Python space then the file name. Of course, be in the present working directory where your Python code is there. Then run the command Python, then the file name and hit enter. So that is the way how you can execute the code. You see, my code is executed and you got the output. So as of now in my code, I said only one print statement. This is the value that I wanted to print, and that is actually got printed for you. So usually when you are writing the code and when you are executing the code, the output should be more readable format. That is where I said the formatting and all, right? So the number is, so I said, right, this is how you can do some formatting and all. So the Visual Studio Code will show you some errors in terms of the coloring format if at all you are not following any uh, syntax things. You see now I'm getting some red mark here, look like there is a problem, right? So let me remove this extra double quote mark. Now you execute the code, the output is more readable. That's how the print statements can be included along with the format functions to make more readable output displayed in the screen. Are we good with this now? So basically, right, whenever you are getting any input, right, in the form of a string or maybe a list or maybe a dictionary or maybe a set or tuple, any form, right? In order to do data parsing, we are taking the help of the built-in functions, correct? How many of you can understand the meaning of built-in functions or built-in methods? When I say built-in methods or built-in functions, consider both are same. That means when you install the Python, by default, all these predefined programs are there. You can just make use of that existing and you, right, do some operations to convert your data it into the required formats, right? So as of now, working with some numbers and names and doing the splitting string dictionary is fine. You get that, you will get those built-in methods as part of the Python software installation. But let's say tomorrow I wanted to write a Python code where I wanted to manage some AWS infrastructure, right? I wanted to do something on my AWS infrastructure, right? So how would you write a Python code to manage the AWS? Because your Python code should know how to connect it to AWS, how to authenticate the AWS, how to make a request to the AWS in order to perform the administrative activities that you have been requested for, correct? A question for you at this time: how did the Terraform is able to manage your AWS infrastructure, guys? Terraform is the software that is developed by HashiCorp company, right? And when you execute the Terraform code, it is able to do something on AWS. How? The Terraform is actually taking the help of the programmatic access keys, like access key, secret access key for authentication. The second thing, right, as part of the initialization, Terraform is actually downloaded some plugin softwares, correct? It is downloading the AWS provider plugin softwares. It is keeping that into a .terraform folder. It is taking the help of that plugins to know how it can connect it to AWS and all those things, correct? Behind the screen. Same way, now if I'm expecting my Python to be able to connect it to AWS and start managing something on the AWS, definitely I need to install, right, the AWS related plugins, right, in my Python as well, correct? So general logic, right? If I install the AWS related plugins, the way how the AWS plugins are given to Terraform, same way now I need to download the AWS plugins to my Python as well. Then Python also can connect it to AWS and can do some changes as per your request. But from the terminology wise, I should not call it as a plugin. When it comes to the Python, we need to call it as a module, right? When it comes to the Python, we call it as a module. That means if you are expecting the Python to be interacted with the AWS and do some administrative activities, we need to download and install a module. A module means what? A module is the predefined set of some code, some programs, some functions which you install. When you install this module, it will bring all the different functions and the methods that you wanted to use, and then you can use them to write a code to do some changes in your AWS infrastructure. So simple. I mean to say, so far you are able to do this, right? Let's say a replace function in strings, correct? And you are able to do append function in list, correct? And add function in your set. What are these? All these are the built-in functions or built-in methods in a way, right? Even the print, type, int, str, all these are correct. So these are the built-in functions or built-in methods available as part of the Python installation. But if you're expecting the built-in functions related to AWS, we need to download and install the module that is very specific to the AWS. So here you can see a module name called Boto3. Boto3 is the module name which you need to download and install in order to interact with the AWS. In the same way, let's say if you are expecting the Python, you wanted to write a code for Azure, you need to download and install the specific module specific to AWS, sorry, specific to Azure. Let's say you are expecting your Python code to be on Google Cloud. Same usual. You just download and install the module that is very specific to the Google Cloud. Got me? So what is that you are trying to operate? What is that you wanted to administrate? That specific module will be there. You just need to download and install and see how that module works and read the documentation and write a Python program for you for that. It could be a AWS or Azure or a Google Cloud, or it could be any other. At the end of the day, what is that you wanted to administrate? Just download and install that module and start working on it. Because by default, when you install the Python, right, it will not install these specific customized modules for you, right? That's the reason. Being said that, AWS has developed a module called Boto3. Boto3 is the name of the module which is very specific to the AWS only, not for any other. Because the Boto3 is actually developed by the AWS people, which can be used for the Python clients, right? So Boto3 module, technically you can also call it as a SDK, software development kit, right? So that means what? Now I'm changing my terminology. Boto 3 is the AWS SDK for Python. That means Boto 3 is the software development kit which we can use in a Python programs in order to do some administrative activities on the Python, sorry, on the AWS. That's what it is called as a SDK. You know what? In real time, right? Sometimes when you ask a question, hey, I wanted to do some operations on the Azure by using Python. Could you please tell me which SDK that I wanted to use? You got me? That's how the people will start us questioning. I wanted to do something on Google Cloud. Can you tell me what is the SDK? I wanted to do some administrative activities on the Linux operating system. Can you tell me what is the SDK? So SDK is the main thing that we need to choose, which we need to install and start configuring based on the requirement, guys. In our case, since our goal is to do something on AWS at this time, so let me choose AWS SDK, which is Boto 3. Now the question is, how will you download and install this particular module, correct? In order to install this particular SDK in your Python, like a M command, right? How will you install a software in your Linux operating system, guys? M command, right? The M command will download and install the package in your Linux systems. Same way, if you wanted to download and install the SDKs in the Python level, you need to use the command called pip. Pip is the Python package manager. Just to understand, like yum is the package manager for Linux operating system. Same way, pip is the package manager for Python. So anything that you wanted to install at a Python level, use the pip command. So pip install and specify the module that you wanted to install. Then it will install all that module related built-in functions and the methods and start using them to writing the code. So let me try that. So you just need to run a pip install Boto 3, hit enter. So it will be installing this module and giving this to your Python software so that the Python will start using this. So sometimes if you are using Python 3 version, your command will be pip3, right? If you are using Python 2, the command will be pip. Python 3, the command will be pip3, right? If you are having only Python 3 without any Python 2 and all, sometimes the pip will also work. So you see now it is actually trying to download and install the Boto 3 for you. Once it is able to download and install the Boto 3, right? So how do you know that the Boto 3 package is installed, right? So all what you can do is just go to your Python interpreter, the best way. Import is the statement that you need to specify in order to start using this module or using this SDK. Let's say now I wanted to use this Boto 3 module to start writing some program to manage my AWS. All what you need to do is import Boto 3 in the sense, hey Python, I wanted to use this Boto 3 related functions, modules, or built-in programs. So just hit enter. If you are not getting any error, that means the Boto 3 is successfully installed. It is able to import, right? Or it is able to get those capabilities into your current Python and start using them. Another way, like in Terraform, I was able to referencing it to the existing module, right? You all know, right? What is Terraform module? Terraform module is the generic code we can keep writing and keeping it into one place. We can use that module wherever you wanted to from the project side, right? Same thing here as well. The way how it works is different. So Boto 3 is the module which is already written and developed by AWS and they kept it in their internet repositories. I'm actually installing and importing that module so that all those capabilities will come to my code. Then I can start using them to interact with the AWS and do administrative activities. So the SDK, software development kit, in the sense each vendor is developing their own SDK. AWS is developing the SDK called Boto 3. Like that, every vendor will be developing one Python SDK. That SDK will have the built-in programs, how we can use that SDK in order to connect and administrate everything. This is not just for a connecting purpose, it also to use their capabilities to interact with the AWS. In the sense, now if I wanted to know how I can write a Python program to connect it to AWS, to stop the server, to restart the server, anything that you wanted to do on AWS, you just need to follow their Boto 3 documentation. So go to Boto 3 documentation, look into the documentation here, and you read this entire guide. This guide will explain how to use the Boto 3, right? And to get started with. Let's say I wanted to work with EC2, right? Search for your EC2. Somewhere you can see EC2 examples here. Go here. I want to manage EC2 instances. And let's say I want to stop the server. Come here. So this documentation will explain you now how to write a Python program to stop the server by using the Boto 3 module. And just look at these examples, understand it, all these things. This is nowhere different, guys. We already did it in Terraform. Let's say in Terraform, whenever you have written a Terraform module, right? When you are using the module, you should know how the module is written. Then only you can supply the values, correct? When I'm trying to pass the values to the module, you should know what variables are defined in the module and what values that the module is expecting. Then you pass the values and it will be taken care of. Same thing here as well. The Boto 3 module is actually written by AWS people. We don't know how they have written. So we need to look into their documentation to understand this module, how it works. Then we need to start giving some inputs to this module. The Python will take care of. That's okay. I'll just show you one simple scenario now. Then we'll go on deeper and deeper later. Yes, exactly right. As I see in a chart window, the Boto 3 will talk about the documentation which explains like a Terraform documentation. How can you write a Terraform code to manage your AWS? You follow the AWS specific documentation of your Terraform. That will tell you how to write a how to write a Terraform code, what is the syntax, what arguments, how to give the values, how to connect it, correct? Same thing. Here the Boto 3 documentation will tell you how to follow the syntax, how to write a code, how to connect it to AWS, all these things. We just simply blindly following the documentation, copy paste it and modify the values the way how we did it for Terraform. Let me do one thing. Okay. Let's say I'm using the Boto 3. Good. Now I wanted to stop a EC2 server. That's my goal, right? Let me go to the Boto 3 documentation now to understand it. Okay. I'll go to the Boto 3 documentation. Boto 3 is very specific to the AWS only. Now I wanted to look for EC2, right? Maybe I can search for EC2 directly. Okay. You see here this one. So I'm looking into the EC2 documentation and this is some example. You see here the sample syntax. The step number 1 is import statement. That is where I'm telling that, hey, I wanted to use the Boto 3 SDK. Good. The step number 2, you see this one. This is telling that Okay. In the Boto 3 is basically the SDK for all the AWS services, right? The Boto 3 will help you on EC2, VPC, security groups, volumes, Route 53, anything that you have in AWS can be managed by using a Boto 3, correct? So what is that you wanted to manage using Boto 3? That is what you need to tell in the next line. So here, Boto 3. In that Boto 3 SDK, I wanted to use the EC2 server. So the syntax will be like this: Boto 3 dot client of and specify the service name. That means, hey, I want to use the EC2 service from this Boto 3 SDK and assign this EC2 it into one other variable. That's how it works. So that then onwards, I can just use this variable wherever I wanted to work with EC2, right? So let me take this syntax. Where is that? Here, right? I'm just executing it. So this step is completed. Python by default using the programmatic access key, secret access key that you configured using AWS configure command, same like Terraform. How Terraform has used the existing credentials, same way the Python will also use the credentials and connect it to AWS. You don't need to do any other steps. So just to repeat this statement saying that, right? I'm telling that, hey, in the Boto 3, I wanted to use the EC2 service, and that expression result, I'm giving it to another variable. The variable can be anything that you like it. It can be a client, it can be ABC, it can be whatever you like it. Basically, this variable will keep your EC2 instance related stuff. Now you use this client variable and go to the next step. What is my next step? I wanted to stop a server, right? You see here, these are the available methods. It is telling that, hey, regarding the EC2, these are the available methods that you can use. What is my requirement? I wanted to stop, right? Go and search for the method that is helping me to stop the server. So we need to see all of the different actions that we can do on your EC2, guys. You need to search and find the right one. There are many, right? Let me search for it. You see stop instances. Then go to this particular method. Then it will explain you how to use this stop instances, right? And you need to read this documentation, understand it, go here, get some example syntax, right? And see this. The example syntax says that, hey, if you wanted to use this stop underscore instances, this is how it works. It says that, sorry, client. In the client, I wanted to use stop underscore instances like this. Can you correlate this with your previous examples, guys? When I was doing some operations on the strings, on the list, on the dictionary, how I was doing? Same thing, right? The variable name dot, and I was specifying some built-in function, how I wanted to play around with this variable, correct? I'm doing the same thing now also, nothing different. The client is actually the EC2 service, correct? In this scenario, right? The client is the EC2 service. On this EC2 service, I wanted to apply a stop instances function. Now within this parenthesis, we need to specify the details, which server you are expecting it to be stopped. How do you give the values within this parenthesis? Look into the documentation again. The documentation says that within this parenthesis, we need to give the details like this. It says that instance id is equal to specify the instance id, and there are few more. So inside the parentheses, we have the parameter value, parameter value, parameter value. You can give multiple parameters inside this parenthesis, which is a kind of input. Remember in Terraform, once you start with the block, inside the block you give the argument and the value, right? That is where you are giving the input to your Terraform, how you are expecting the AWS to be. Same thing, rather block here, this is a parenthesis, this is syntax issues. So inside this parenthesis, you need to tell which server you are expecting it to be rebooted. The syntax is like this. Instance IDs is equal to, that is the variable name. Take that variable name. Now you give the value to that variable. The value is in the list format. If you go back here, you see the value is in the list format. Inside this list, you have to give the value. This is the instance ID that you need to specify. To know more details about this syntax, you look into this parameter documentation. In Terraform also you used to get the argument documentation, right? Same thing. Here it is telling that, hey, instance IDs is the parameter that we need to give the value to be a list format, and we can give the list of instance IDs as an input. Okay, I'll just follow this. What I do is I have an EC2 server already running in my AWS. Let me give this instance ID. For now, I'm just copying it here. See, this is the instance ID that I wanted to give, right? Take that instance ID and let me give that instance ID here as an input. This is definitely a string, right? Because this is alphanumerical value. So I'm just giving, this is the one instance. If you wanted to give one more, give comma and give one more instance ID. Now let me hit enter. Done. Your instance is stopped, guys. So if you come back to your AWS again, just do a simple refresh. You see that your instance is going to stop. How simple it is now. So whenever the instance is stopped, right, it is giving you the response as well. You see, this is the response it is telling you, telling that, hey, I'm stopping the server, right? And these are the details of the server. Currently it is stopping state, something. We'll talk about this later. But for now, you see, I just wrote 3 lines of code to stop my server. The line 1 is to use the Boto3 SDK. Line 2 to use the EC2 service inside the Boto3, because Boto3 works for all the services, right? Which service that you wanted to use, take that client connection. The line 3, in that client, you go with the specific method that you wanted to and pass your input in the inside. So once you figure it out exactly, how do you write a Python code in your Python interpreter, like one by one, line by line? Once you know exactly, then copy these lines it into actual file. Now you see, I'm keeping these lines in my Python, because at step number 1, right, at first go, you can't write a code directly in the file. Once you know how it is working in the interpreter side, then you copy those lines and put it into your file format. Now my code is ready here. You see the code? Now I can execute this code. Python and specify the file name. So now these 3 lines will be get executed one by one. Done. That's okay. I'm not getting any output here because I have not asked for the print statement, right? So because I did not ask for the print statement, it is not printing anything. I'll take another 2 minutes of time just to do some more changes here. So in this code, right, the 3 lines of code, you see this is the instance ID that I'm giving to my Python code, right? Telling that, hey, this is the instance that you wanted to stop. Now the same instance ID, I can do like this, right? So I can say ID equal to, take that instance ID it into a variable, let's say instance ID. Then you specify that variable inside this parenthesis, inside this list, correct? Can we do this, guys? This is just a best practice, right? Rather giving the instance ID directly in the code, I'm taking that into a variable, give that variable in the code. Anyway, during the processing, it will just replace this value only. That is where we use the variables That is how we use the variables inside the code as well. Now, if you wanted to use multiple, make them it into a list format and give it to there. That's how it works. Well, team, so I don't want to go in too much advanced today itself. We'll talk about these improvements in the next lecture as well. As of now, I'm giving the instance ID as a manual input. I can even ask my Boto3 that, or my Python that, hey Python, I don't want to give you the instance ID. Can you go to AWS, get the instance ID from the running list and stop them? Yes, we can do that. Can you, hey Python, can you go to AWS, get all my EC2 servers list? Can you filter them, the servers whichever is starting with web terminology, then stop only those, not all the servers. Yes, we can do that. Right? So to do all of them, you must be expertise on the data type. What is the data type that you have given as input and what is that it is expecting here? Yeah, one small change before we go for today. I wanted to do this just to make you guys understanding what does it mean by the data transformation, right? The ID. Let's say this is how it is, guys. Do you think this code works? So in this, the line number 4 is called as a business logic, correct? Line number 4 is the business logic. Line number 3 is the data input. I used to say total 3 steps, right? In writing the Python program, right? In step number 1, I got the input in the dictionary format. In the business logic, I need the value in the list format. Of course, the list is already there. I need the value in the string format, correct? Is it matching, guys? The business logic is expecting the value to be in a string format, but the given input is in the dictionary format. You got me what I'm trying to, right? So here, this code will not work directly. What we need to do now? So we need to do the data parsing or the data transformation. What you need to do is you can't give this variable directly because the variable is in the dictionary format. I need to convert that it into a string format. How can we do that? So in this variable, I wanted to get the value of the uh, key called ID. This is how you need to write a code now. So this will be rendered it into your actual value, which is in the string format already, and you are giving the value in a right format, your code will definitely works. That is what we are struggling so far to see how to transform your input into a different formats, whatever the format that you like it to. As of now, you may be asking me now that why I need to give the value in a dictionary format. I can directly give the value in the string format here only, right? Why should I be worried about converting it into? That is true. But today I'm giving this value by my own. Tomorrow when I make it as a dynamic, hey AWS, hey Python, go to AWS. Can you get all the list of servers automatically, filter them out, get the instances whichever is starting with web, then stop them. If you're expecting that kind of a dynamic behavior, right? When Python is getting the list of servers from AWS, we don't know in which format the response will come from AWS, right? We are not controlling there. That is where we need to do some data parsing. We'll talk about those things in the next lecture anyway. Interesting, guys, how we are writing the Python or making use of the Python to do this administrative activities, right? So to fetch the servers from the AWS, all these things, we don't need to use Terraform. Python will do everything. As long as the Python is able to connect it to AWS using Boto3, it will do everything for you. So Any questions, do let me know, or else we are good for today with this simple introduction to the Boto 3 and some small 3 lines of code to stop the server, right? We'll see some improvements in the next lecture. Right, so as I said that the access by default, it will be getting it from the AWS configure. Already the access key, secret access key are configured in my machine, right? From the day one, like I'm talking about this. So whatever the access key, secret access key that are configured in your development system by using AWS configure, the same keys will be used by Python by default. I mean to say, when you run the Python code, the Python will go to your system. It will go to your user directory, the home directory. It will go to .aws folder, and the credentials will be here, right? It will use these credentials and will be connecting to AWS. I have not given the access key, secret access key today, but we already familiar, right? What it is. We already set this configuration in my local, right? So it is using them. Yes. So as I see a question in the chat window, yes, it's possible. That's what, like, I'll ask my Python that, hey, go and get the servers from the AWS, right? Let's say there are 100 servers running in AWS. Python will get all the 100 servers list. Then you can tell to Python that, hey, don't stop all the servers. Stop the servers, whichever is starting with a name called web. Yes, it will go and stop the server, only those servers only, not all the servers. All that logic, you need to keep it in your code itself. We'll see how to put all of that business logic in next lectures. Interesting, guys. So hope Python is easy. So all what we need to do here is putting some time and reading their documentation, nothing else. Like Terraform, going and documentation, understanding the documentation and transform that into your code. Here also the same thing. Well, team, so